Hello, hello, good evening. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll be going into executive session, but we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to New Mexico flag and acknowledgement of tribal lands. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera de los Estados de Nuevo México, la símbolo de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. We acknowledge that our Board of Education meeting is taking place on occupied indigenous land. We acknowledge the Tesuque Pueblo lands and other tribal lands on which we stand. We honor these people, past, present, and future. We acknowledge the history and ongoing colonization of where we are sitting right now in New Mexico and in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization. Thank you very much, everyone. Next is approval of the agenda. Superintendent, do we need to make any changes?
No changes this evening. Board President Bozé.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The agenda is approved. And Secretary Abeta.
Madam President, I move that we go into executive session where we will discuss threatened or pending litigation.
Thank you very much. And that is Rinaldi v. SFPS. And we will be back as soon as we are done, hopefully close to 5:30. Thanks so much. Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of moving into executive?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
she has on today. That's fine. I just wanted to ask. I know you've said that before, but I just want to make sure.
Let's see, your choir is today, right? Capital High School choir.
It's been more than a month. Just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Well, you got a sticker? Or
Do you get one of the pops?
I didn't get a copy.
I think the kid has a bag and was supposed to be passing it out.
You didn't?
I just put my hand in the bag and took it. So.
You said,
I wanted it. I said, attendance counts. Give it to me.
fix it. My shirt is not cooperating.
I need to go use the restroom.
I know.
Where is it?
Over here. I got one.
Nice. Half your school's here?
Half my school. Half the choirs.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know that. You don't tell me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so tired. This time of year is just slaughter.
Have you got accepted into anyone?
Yeah, I've gotten into a few colleges. So.
Which one?
Got into Harvard, Stanford. Yeah, it's kind of.
Making big
Yeah. It was kind of crazy. Cause I got like over spring break, I got like rejected, waitlisted by 8 colleges. So I was like, there's no hope. And then yeah, I got Harvard. It's like, holy smokes.
Are you gonna go?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna go to Harvard or Stanford. I think Stanford probably is better science, but I don't really know what I want to do.
Are you excited?
Oh yeah, this is awesome.
How are you?
Thank you. No, yeah, it's nice to like know that. Yeah, because the only other school that I got into beforehand was University of Toronto, and I didn't really want to move to Canada. I was like, oh my god, I can go to school in the United States. So, yeah, pretty cool. What about you?
I'm gonna send it to Western.
Nice.
I might go there.
Yeah, Western is really good paleontology, doesn't it?
I think so. But I'm going for Tom though.
Oh, nice. Oh my gosh, do you want to be a teacher?
No. Definitely not.
Just like an educator?
More like. So I want to double major, research and child development.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I can deal with kids that are in the system.
No, that's so cool. My aunt is a social worker in Boston, so she's a good person. She's been doing it for like 26 years or something. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm so scared. You guys have any idea?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's be real.
With all these people in the office. You're gonna get in my ear? You're gonna get in the room?
This should be in recent or shared with me? Recent, right?
Miss Dickinson, you did not tell me you were gonna be here. Yeah. Now I see that.
No, it's video.
So great.
Oh, do you know all those kids? What's it called? Does that go to our school accounts? Yeah, it is. I'm like so blind to it. The other is crazy. The other day I got 3 hours of sleep. I went to bed at 11 and woke up at 1:56. And just yesterday I went to bed at 10:30 and woke up at 10. So I got like 3 hours of sleep, then 12 hours of sleep, and my brain is still not. Interdisciplinary, I don't know. Showcase of, or I don't know. That's one way to put it.
Collaboration performance at the Georgia Keith Museum.
Oh, that's awesome. The Georgia O'Keeffe Museum is so cool. I've only been there like twice before. It's pretty cool.
Must be in a wall.
out to like not that far. Well, not that far. 7:30.
I told them to get here at 7:30 on my last day.
Yeah. Got it under control. It's just there's not much happening at this time of year. Wish they had ballers for us.
It's because they're in the meeting, so we don't
No. No, but I'll accept defeat.
Just should we ask them?
Let's not ask Cody. Let's not ask Cody. We can.
If you want to take the spot at the top, you can have some Sprite.
No, that's all good. Thank you, though. Start. I need to apply for more scholarships. It's so bad.
You know what? Okay, when she comes out, okay,
Give me some water.
please, please.
Just a little bit. I'm so parched.
We didn't want to disturb you.
Yeah. I'm so blind. I get headaches all the time unless my like this is
No, no worries.
I just have to do this.
I can't read this. They're kindergarten.
No, I can't read that. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wait,
we did a bunch of stuff like half an hour.
Yeah, you're here.
I just get here early. I get here early and then I just like.
I got you.
I don't know why.
You should have asked her.
Good evening, beautiful audience. It's nice to see you all here. We're going to come back from executive session. Secretary?
Madam President, I move that we come out of executive session where we only discuss threatened or pending litigation related to Rinaldi versus Santa Fe Public School District.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of coming out of executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are back from executive session, and we have introduction of the interpreter next.
Para asistencia de traducción en español, el señor Lucero te ayudará.
Thank you very much. And up next, we have our school board showcase. Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Bozay, members of the board. Good evening to our audience. It's always great to see everybody in the seats here. So with us tonight is Tesuque Elementary and their principal. So, yeah. Cheryl Romero. Oh, look at those little banner fans. We may need some.
Yay.
So if Ms. Romero wants to come up and introduce everyone, we'll get started with tonight's Student Board Showcase.
Now can you hear me? There we go. All right. I could have used my in-class voice, but you don't want that in here. President Bozay, board members, my fellow staff members, the lovely community of Santa Fe, my Tesuque family over there. Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. We are honored to be here. We get to show you our little gem of a school. So first up, we will have a brief presentation from our students here.
Hello, Hello, Santa Fe. My name is Jamie Sullivan, and I am a second grade student at Tesuque Elementary. One of the things we get to learn at Tesuque is sign language. We would like to share with you these positive statements. And then, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. In every challenge, there's opportunity. Imagine all the people living in peace.
Hi, my name is Leonel. We are a big family at Tesuque. We come from many different places in the world, like New Mexico, Ukraine, El Salvador, Mexico, England, Guatemala, New York, Massachusetts,
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lita, and I'm a sixth grader. Part of our day is innovative and expeditionary learning. Some people might call it project-based learning, but it is more than that. We explore ideas and apply them to real-world situations. Tesuque Elementary School builds upon a rich heritage which we would love to share with all of you.
Hi, my name is Lacey. Thank you for letting us be guests today at this meeting.
Go ahead with the video. Thank you again for having us. Good night.
Thank you so much, Tesuke.
Thank you, Ms. Romero, and Tesuke Eagles. Thank you. Great banner. One of our art teachers in the audience likes the banner, so. So moving right along, it's with great pleasure to welcome Capitol High School Choir and our district music coordinator, Miss April Pickrell. Miss Pickrell.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting us to perform for you again. Alicia Dickinson is the choral director and piano instructor at Capitol High School and the instructional coach of the choral program in Santa Fe Public Schools. She has a bachelor's of music from Kansas City Conservatory of Music, a master's of educational leadership from Arkansas State University, and a master's of content area literacy and her TESOL certification. She began her career in 2003, and she has served Santa Fe Public Schools since 2020. Tonight, we present the Capitol High School Concert Choir. They will perform Oi and Dance for Love. We appreciate all of your support and dedication to the music education in Santa Fe Public Schools. Please enjoy.
More than half of our group is working this evening and was unable to perform. in January to help us prepare this song. It is a poem written by a Civil War soldier speaking of how he's traveling home to be with his wife. And we all talked about how back in the day there weren't cell phones or anything like that. And so in the song it says he's been gone for 3 long years. And he's hoping that she will be on the porch waiting when he comes around the corner. And she's hoping he's going to come around that corner and return from the war. So this song is really special for us because we did get to work with the composer. That's a very special thing. So here we go, Dance for Love. We performed these 2 songs and one other at the State Music Performance Assessment, and our ensemble earned a score of excellent. So we were very pleased. Thank
What beautiful voices. Great job, students and teachers and music department. All right. Up next is public forum.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Board President Bozay. With us tonight, taking us through public forum, is our Public Information Officer, Mr. Cody Donarski.
Awesome. Thank you, Board President, members of the Board, Superintendent Chavez. There is one person signed up for public forum comment tonight. They are in person. Ground rules for public forum. Public forum includes online and/or virtual participation as needed, as well as in-person comments when the board holds in-person meetings. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. There will be no sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe your 3-minute time limit. I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. Public commentary and dialogue are only allowed during public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take actions that are not on the agenda. Please do not discuss employee matters which may result in disciplinary action. Instead, notify the employee supervisor, the Human Resources Department, or the superintendent. For public forum tonight, I would like to call up Nicholas Romero. Right here. And then I will have the timer here. It'll go off, and then I'll give you 30 seconds.
Hello. I work over on transportation, and it's been a real tough thing here on us being at such a low budget. Right now, we're on a freeze, and so we're trying to figure out, how do we repair our buses if we're currently on a freeze? And so we're trying to figure out, we've been having a lot of cuts, and a lot of us are, I'll use an example myself. I've been in transportation for a long time, and because of the budget cut, I'm currently working 3 jobs. To a point where I never thought I would go back to flipping burgers to make ends meet. I shouldn't have, I can't tell my bank, sorry, I can't pay my mortgage this month. They cut my hours. Can we want to talk about that? I don't have anything more to say. That's it.
Yep, no, that concludes it. Thank you. Yep, of course. And that concludes public forum.
Thank you very much. Up next is our union update.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I think it's only 30 days. How many days? But who's counting? I'm Grace Mayer, the NEA Santa Fe president and art teacher at Milagro Middle School. I'm here mostly to hear the presentation on the budget, but I just wanted to talk about a few things that you'll probably cover in terms of our legislative session and one other issue that I wanted to just bring to your attention. So I believe we received a 6% raise. You're well aware of our issues with K-12 plus and adding additional program units and increase to instructional days and time. And I'm sure you received a copy of the calendar that you will probably be voting on today or soon. One of the major success stories of the session was the increase for educational assistance to a $25,000 minimum. So we're grateful that we can offer a salary that is higher than it was scheduled to be by law, which was only half of that, which seems remarkable at this point. But there are a few other issues around insurance. We're not exactly sure if the governor signed the 80-20 or not. not yet. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Our big push in terms of health insurance was to cover 100%. The board, helped us with signing an initiative to get 80/20 when that was our initial campaign. So we're hoping that for at least our educators that make and staff that make less than $50,000, that will be approved. Free lunch and healthy meals for our students is an excellent bill that was passed, and we're happy that our students will receive those meals. I think it's made a difference in the last couple of years through the pandemic for our students to know that there's always, going to be breakfast and lunch for them. Especially in the upper grades, I think a lot of times people take it for granted that our students in middle and high school have access to healthy meals. They don't always have that. And so I'm happy that that was passed, and it will help our students and families immensely. There's a couple of other things about reading materials to fund elementary literacy materials. That was actually signed by the governor for science. For the science of reading. Not exactly sure what that means, but I guess we'll figure that out. But, our district has always promoted literacy, and so has our union in huge ways with Read Across America and other initiatives that have helped students and families sort of maintain a library at home, and we really agree that that's where the first step to, being a literate adult is learning to read with your family, and access to books is a huge deal. And maintaining our libraries and free and open access of those libraries is what I hope our school board will always treasure, as I do. Yeah. So there's one concern I want to bring up. We're going to start bargaining. I have approached the district about certain things. I'm not going to go into details of exactly the articles we're going to address, but I do want to talk to you just generally about the concerns that our district's membership has with fluctuating student enrollments in different schools, are creating issues with class sizes. And it's a hard thing to deal with because there might be students in a school with low enrollment who have a combo class, a third, fourth, let's say, of 12 or 13 students, and that teacher in elementary school is receiving a stipend per our agreement. But then there's other students that are at maximums or 24 or 27 in a class, and they're not receiving a stipend unless there's an overage. They go to the maximum. So there's this disparity amongst our employees where certain schools, are in situations which make the learning environment more productive, more one-on-one situations. And that's a larger issue about the number of schools that we operate and the budgetary constraints of that. And I wanted to bring up class size in particular because NEA pushed forward some bills to try to get a reduction in class size for not only elementary school by 1 or 2 students in the early grades, but also middle and high school. Because having 30, 35, or 32 students in a science lab or art course is a little outrageous. And some of the students might attest to that. And especially when we're in an environment now where we're not fully staffed, so those higher class sizes with the sub is even less productive, right? And so it's challenging, and you have a challenging job ahead of you in terms of the budget, and also considering reimagining schools and maybe, consolidating programs or other sites to create more innovative programming environments, let's say. So there are a lot of difficult choices that I think that you need to consider, including this budget cycle. And I know it seems like it may be rushed, but it's not. We've been talking about these issues for like a decade. And I think we need to understand that our financial situation is being affected by some of these issues. And we're being stretched too thin as a staff and when we're in shortages. So those are some of the concerns that our members have had, and we're bringing forward to talk to you about them. But then after today, I probably won't be able to discuss any of this because we'll be in bargaining. But I appreciate all that you do and hope that our budget is strong and that we can fulfill the promise of educating Santa Fe students. Thanks.
Thank you very much, President Mayer. Next, we get to hear from our awesome student board members with their updates.
Hello. Thank you, President Bose and other members of the board. So at Santa Fe High School, our speech and debate team is going to send senior Nandi Stryker to the National Speech and Debate Association's national competition in Phoenix in June. Ms. Goldman, the head of the SAGE program and the coach of the team, received the New Mexico District New Coach of the Year Award over spring break for the team's continued success. At the Orchestra MPA Festival, Santa Fe High School received excellent and superior ratings from the judges. Santa Fe High School's NJROTC came away as sport marksmanship champions and the third overall unit at the NM State JROTC meet on Saturday, April 1st at Cibola High School. Along with the program's major accomplishments in the sporter marksmanship category and overall podium placement, the NJROTC also earned the following awards. Third individual sporter overall, Jacob Mirabal. Third individual male sprint, drag and carry, Emilio Leon. Third female color guard. Third unarmed exhibition. Third unarmed regulation. Second uniform personal inspection. Finally, Santa Fe High School is hosting its own business competition where students are creating presentations for their unique business ideas, and the first place winner will receive up to $1,500 in funding for their ideas. That's about it for me.
Good evening, President Bose, members of the board. Let's see. We are proud of Caitlin Padilla, who is a powerlifting state champion for her weight class. And I think it was our first year starting powerlifting, so it was pretty good. We are planning for our many upcoming senior events, including Sterling Silver's, College and Career Commitment Day, and our senior award night. Sounds exciting, kind of scary. Our softball team is having the best season that they've had in 20 years. We are proud of our Coach Hernandez and our softball players. Our League of Legends team has qualified for state. They had a meet tonight to keep going. And our orchestra and art department are having a collaboration performance at the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum on April 28th, starting at 5:30. I heard some of you will be there. And that's it for us.
All right. Good afternoon, Vice President Bose, Superintendent Chavez, members of the board. Let's see. Today is like relatively short for usually what I'm presenting, so thank goodness for that. All right, students. So for early college opportunities, students from the advanced welding class created items for giveaway prizes for the SFPS golf tournament. And ECO has been providing scheduled tours to students interested in attending ECO next year. The students have been from both inside and outside of the district. Let's see, surprisingly that's all there is for ECO. Though it isn't on here, we did administer the SAT to juniors yesterday. So, is something else that happened? Anyway, moving swiftly on to Desert Stage Academy. DSA is proud to say they are able to organize and conduct their first ever K-12 Santa Fe historical field trip. DSA middle school students helps to provide emotional support for anxious kinder through 6th grade remote students and as many leaders and chaperones. The DSA Mavericks, their mascot, visited the state capitol, which was in session along with many other local historical sites in downtown Santa Fe. All students were happy to see their classmates in person and enjoyed having their older peers around to guide them. Additionally, there were 9 classes of 2023 senior mentors at the field trip supporting their younger mentorees. All right, now it's for Mandela. Mandela is hosting their 3rd annual, except for the pandemic, of course, Mandela Palooza today. So yes, today, as we speak apparently, Thursday, April 13th from 5 to 7, Mandela Palooza marks our art department's celebration for global culture and community. There will be performances by the music and theater department, as well as arts shows from the middle years and diploma programmers. And last bit of information, the Leopold Writing Program announced the winners of the 2023 Aldo Leopold Writing Contest last week. More than 170 students from across New Mexico in grades 6 through 12 entered this year's contest. In 10th and 12th grade category, Bodie Lewis, 10th grader at Santa Fe Mandela International Magnet School, is the winning essayist. So, good job, Mandela. All right, that's it for me. Yay. All right.
Thank you so much, student board members. Yes, Member Noble.
Thank you, President Bose. I just want to say, of course, we are getting to graduation time and commitments and this sort of thing, and we're seeing graduations on our advanced planning, which is always fun. And I don't know if any of our student board members have made plans, but I do want to say, because he has some very proud family members on Facebook, that Mr. McGinnis has gotten into a very impressive list of schools. So please, and many of them Ivy League and big names and that sort of thing. Seems like whatever you did in college applications, it really worked. So congratulations, and please let us know for all of you when you make a choice about what you're going to do next year.
Congratulations, that's very exciting. It's nice to have choices. I did also want to note for the record that member Dr. Gonzalez left a few minutes ago, so she is excused for the rest of the meeting. I will be sharing some information in our board member announcements and follow-ups from the National School Board Association conference that I attended 10 days ago in Orlando. It was an incredible experience. We were registered to go in 2020, and then it didn't get to happen. So it was exciting to have that opportunity and meet with other school board members from across the country. The sessions that were offered were incredibly informative. I wished I could have cut myself into 4 pieces and be everywhere all at once, because I wanted all the information. So I hope that more of us are able to attend in the future. I am bringing home some really important things, I think, that I will share with the superintendent that he can disperse to the other board members. Hopefully, really good CTE information, some really incredible social emotional learning resources, free resources. There was a great presentation that I attended that they have a whole catalog of classes that parents can take, families can take. I read through, 30 of them, and thought that they all sounded really helpful for me as a parent. They also have coaching available for free for families who need it. And so they were like, please just take this badge and put it on your website so families can access it. So I will share that information forthright. There was an incredible presentation from Southern California on school culture and how to enhance really district-wide culture. I think we do a lot of that right. But I mean, this was like flash mobs in the mall kind of culture. It was pretty cool and exciting to see. There was also really good information about assessments and how we use assessments and aligning those with our strategic plan and how that ties in to public perception, right? This notion of good schools and bad schools, which we all hear about a lot. And that was actually a presentation that the National NEA gave. Just so much information and really incredible opportunity that I was very fortunate to be able to do. So, thank you. If there are any other board member announcements, please feel free to share. All right, seeing none, we will move on to the superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Board President Bozay. And just to add to that presentation, I was lucky enough to be invited and joined President Bozay and also NEA Santa Fe President Grace Mayer on a joint presentation we made. So went very well. Been talking to superintendents throughout the U.S. about what we presented that day. So that message is spreading.
Sorry, can I hop in? Because of course I talked about all of the things that I learned and observed, but of course we were there to present on the way that we as a district partner with our union to bring really innovative, wonderful things to our community. So it was a Monday morning session. They warned us ahead of time that, there might only be 8 or 10 people in attendance, and the room was almost full. And we stood and talked to people for a long time afterwards. They were really blown away by the Early Childhood Center and the progress we're starting to make on affordable housing. So it was really exciting, actually, to see how impressed everyone was with the work that everyone at the district is doing. I'm grateful for all of you, and I was honored to represent everyone here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. So my first announcement tonight is our golf tournament is full once again, our second annual. So I want to thank all of our sponsors and all of the teams that are going to be out there on Saturday. Tee time start at 10 o'clock. And again, this is a initiative that we put forward a year ago to really help one of our departments fundraise, because everything that we raise from this golf tournament goes to those gift bags that we give out to staff, little appreciation tokens, stuff to help students. So again, it's for a great cause, and we want to thank everyone for sponsoring and coming out on Saturday. Last week, we had 2 Santa Fe Public School teachers, Michelle Armijo, a 3rd grade teacher at Piñon Elementary, and Miss Tara Hughes, who we're very familiar with her name. She almost hit the Grand Slam with all the awards this year. A pre-K inclusion teacher for 4-year-olds at Nye Early Childhood Center received last week the Golden Apple for Excellence in Teaching Awards from the Golden Apple Foundation. They are among 7 teachers to receive the award statewide. So a great percentage for Santa Fe Public Schools, and great job by those 2 individuals. Miss Armijo has 12 years of teaching experience, all at Piñon. As always, had a love of teaching. Her colleagues say she actively works to learn as much as she can about her students so she can address their needs and celebrate their success. Just this year, the board recognized her for achieving her National Board Certified Education Recognition, a rigorous process which requires submission of portfolios with evidence of student engagement and learning, in addition to computer-based assessments of her area. Ms. Hughes, of course, is highly structured special ed teacher for 3 and 4-year-olds. She has advocated for access to more peers in her classroom and championed the New Mexico-focused high-quality standards for inclusion practices so that all students can participate fully. Again, she is wonderful at everything she does, as all educators are. She was also named the 2023 New Mexico Teacher of the Year in October due to her outstanding efforts and around all she does for those early age groups students. We also received notification yesterday that we will be receiving $825,000 in community school grant awards from PED this school year. 2 new first-year implementation grants. Amy Bill and Chaparral will receive $150,000 for the next 3 years. Second-year implementation grants for Kearney Elementary, Milagro Middle School, 1 Nino Otero, 1 renewal grant for Santa Fe High, and we are continuing to advocate for additional grants, funding, so we can continue to expand community schools. Out-of-state travel for Mandela International Magnet School. We have 25 seniors with 3 staff members. They will be traveling. This is an outdoor learning experience, part of the IB requirements. Since it is our senior class, we are taking them out of state to Buena Vista, Colorado. They will be leaving on Friday the 21st and returning back on the 23rd of April. And last but not least, and I did make sure that I whispered in Betty's ear, do not let Grace leave. So we want to congratulate NEA Santa Fe President Grace Mayer. She will be receiving the NEA Mary Hatwood Futrell Human Civil Rights Award at an award ceremony during NEA's national meeting in July in Orlando, Florida. This award, NEA presents the award to a nominee whose activities in women's rights significantly impact education and the achievement of equal opportunity for women and girls. To be eligible for this award, the nominee must meet 1 or more of the following criteria: promote equitable education opportunities for women and girls, improve the economic, occupational, and health status of women members, develop programs that strengthen women's role in the making of educational policy, develop programs that help women of various cultures from coalitions and share resources, promote public policy designed to eliminate sex role stereotyping and inequities in education and other sectors of the economy, and champion policies and/or legislation that defends, fosters, and ensures women's rights. What she didn't know, I couldn't share that Betty had reached out to me for a letter of support, which we sent a couple months back, and so I want to say congratulations. We have a small token of appreciation and just want to give you a round of applause.
Nice camera. Good job.
And that does conclude my superintendent's updates and announcements.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. Up next, we have the presentation that we've all been waiting for. The start of the budget discussions.
Thank you very much, President Bozay. With us, we're going to be tag teaming, and so we'll go through this overview. Again, tonight's overview was really to look at legislation that was signed off and approved, how it impacts Santa Fe Public Schools. And over the next few weeks, we have many meeting set up with New Mexico Public Education Department on how to access the fundings, how it impacts Santa Fe Public Schools, and also working collaboratively on the working documents that we need to prepare a well-rounded budget. We took a different approach this week, as this week was the New Mexico School Boards Association, or New Mexico ASBO budget
Spring
workshop.
budget workshop
I'm sorry.
with heads,
Yep.
yeah.
And so typically, it's usually the Business Services Department, myself, and a few others. Learned a lesson of being in Florida when we attended the National School Board Association. So many of the individuals that you see tonight from the team were in attendance over the week. It was in their area that they supervised, their specialty, or the departments they lead. So we took a different approach. Everybody attended, and then we're going to debrief so we can have better understanding of what's being asked of us, but also what's out there for us to access. So as we move forward this evening, the overview, again, is 2023 legislation that impacts Santa Fe Public Schools. As President Mayor mentioned, a 5% salary increase, a 1% increase for benefits, for a total of a 6% increase for all educators except for myself. Additional learning time, the 2023 Spring Budget Workshop, and that was the name. Our budget will be due on the 30th of May, which is slightly a few days, 2 days sooner than in the past. Project budget impacts, federal funding, and also overview and status of mill levy funding. As we move through here, House Bill 2, which is the one that carries all the funding, the State Equalization Guarantee, or the SEG, has over $252 million for extended learning programs. No operating budget, this is important to know, no operating budget will be approved with fewer instructional hours than the current school year. So I want to give credit to the team, and also for NEA Santa Fe President Grace Mayer participating on that calendar development. I think it's a well-rounded calendar. I think it's best of both worlds, but it is an extension of this year's calendar to meet the new requirements that the state provides us this upcoming school year. Again, 5% salary increase to all school personnel, a 1% salary increase to all public school personnel for inflation to cover health premium costs. We were just attending the workshop this week, and the New Mexico Public Education Department did recommend that it is a 6%. It's not a 5% with a 1% stipend. It is a flat 6% on all salary tables. Transportation, there was an increase there of over $126 million. And again, that is inclusive of the raises. Almost $8 million to raise the responsibility factor of principals and assistant principals, and we did get some guidance this week on that. We raised the factor by 0.05, and then we determine which is the greatest. Is it the 0.05 responsibility factor, or is it the 6% for principal salaries? So we have some work to do on that as well. The at-risk index multiplier has also increased by 0.03 in House Bill 199. And as President Mayer mentioned, the minimum salary for our licensed educational assistants is now at $25,000. So that's a piece of legislation that we're extremely proud of. I do remember we had a EA in the boardroom just after our previous budget season asking for raises. So this is something that we'll be discussing with Grace and her team as we move through negotiations this month. So we continue on to the next page, page 4. Hourly employees now are required to receive $15 per hour. We had already been there. The board did a great job of making that a priority in previous years. $60 million for K-12 plus programs, $55 million to purchase culturally and linguistically appropriate instructional materials. And again, we're taking a look at that as well on how we purchase these materials, really looking at other districts and how they utilize this funding so we can maximize the materials we can purchase. Almost $32 million to increase the minimum employer contributions for healthcare benefits. So I know this was something that Grace mentioned. House Bill 533 has been signed. And so the way it reads is any employee making less than $50,000, the share is 80-20, 80% on the district, 20% on the employee. Those that fall in the range between $50,000 and $60,000, the share is 70-30. So the district share is 70%, the employee share is 30%. Employees who make more than $60,000, the minimum is 60% and the employee share is 40%. So again, this is how we're funded to cover healthcare benefits. We have 1,050 employees participating in our medical programs or offerings. We have 234 employees making less than $50,000. We currently have 132 employees that fall between the range of $50,000 and $60,000. And then we have 684 employees that make more than $60,000. So we're looking at this. I've tasked some of the team to really take a look at what the cost difference is between the way it's currently funded, the way it's going to be funded, and how it impacts these employee groups. Again, this is some tall tasks that I've assigned to the team, but something that we'll be prepared to share with you on Thursday as far as the impact over healthcare benefits. So we move on to page 5, $21 million for PD on case management, tutoring, data guided instruction, coaching, evidence-based practices, $8 million for evidence-based structured literacy, which we have been a pioneer and a lead in that area. Supplemental appropriations, $40 million for CTE innovation zones and work-based learning initiatives, which is great because our model around work-based learning is the model being used not only in the state of New Mexico, but in our region. We also have $20 million for out-of-school learning, summertime enrichment, and tutoring programs. So that is a meeting that is going to take place with PED and our staff on Monday or Tuesday of next week, because with our summer school offerings, we'll be able to hopefully access this funding to make it sustainable once ESSER expires. As you guys all know, ESSER is the reason why we are funding summer programming, and this appropriation allows us to try to access that. So again, as we're talking about all this funding, there's not a lot of clarity right now as to how to access it, the forms available, or even the applications. The message this week is we will send out memos, future guidance. So we are working, we're trying to advocate to really be at the front of the line so we can have meetings with PED to make sure that we're following what's required to access the funding. So we move on to page 6, $15 million to support schools with the highest ranked family income index. We do have 3. We do have a change for next year. And again, we can go into a lot of the details on Thursday, a week from today. Salazar, as far as family income index, will be receiving $116,000. Ortiz Middle School will be receiving $244,000. And Cesar Chavez Elementary, $192,000. The one school that's missing on here is El Camino Real Academy. They had received for the past 2 years the most from the Family Income Index funding throughout the state. So we did ask that question. They did say, please meet with us, please advocate, and we'll try to come up with some funding to continue with the programming at El Camino. We did the same with Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez did not receive the funding last year. They received additional funding to keep that program in place. So we'll continue to advocate to make sure that they understand how important the Family Income Index is to El Camino. There's many more things on here, community and family engagement initiatives, behavioral health, support for teachers, bilingual, multicultural education programs. Again, on that piece, we've done a great job of leveraging our ESSER funding to eliminate any bilingual vacancies that we have had. This was the first for the district in 10 plus years that we no longer have bilingual vacancies. Instructional material, support for math achievement, and increasing the fine art factor from 0.05 to 0.055. And again, you know, this is a lot of work by our, not only our local delegation, but also state delegation, so we want to shout out them for really investing heavily in education this previous session. On page 7, you'll see a lot of things. The second bullet, $2 million for free menstrual products in public schools. I do want to make note of this, and I did get verification. Santa Fe Public Schools in middle schools and high schools already does this. Okay, so this potentially could help offset the cost that we currently have. But Santa Fe Public Schools already do offer free menstrual products at our middle schools and high schools. So, again, being a leader amongst the state is something great, but also being able to access this so we can continue to provide those type of products for our students. Again, educator advancement through micro-credentialing. President Mayer and I have this conversation all the time of how we can better prepare our teachers to advanced levels, but also how we can provide support for them so they don't stay at the current level that they either entered in at or transferred to Santa Fe Public Schools in. Safety, statewide deployment of mobile panic buttons. Again, we do that already, but again, this can help offset the district costs. We have school bus replacements and then $250,000 for outdoor classroom initiatives. So we move on to page 8. Now, again, everything that I've spoke about has been signed off and is available and ready for us to access come the new fiscal year. PED special appropriations, $13.5 million for early literacy and reading programs, $5 million for school leader PD, and they are investing heavily in the principals. They want them to be successful. They want to provide professional development, and that's why you also see that increased unit factor or responsibility factor that they will be receiving this year. $3 million for a STEAM initiative, $3 million for teacher PD, $500,000 for National Board Certification Assistance. So this is important to note. Right now, as a district, we only offer this stipend for our staff that are on site. Now, this does include district staff and principals. If you remember, this has always been a request, especially of some of our principals who hold this certification and are not receiving this stipend. So this allocation now helps us provide that stipend to all that hold the certificate. As we move on to page 9, this was something that Board Member Noble has been talking about as she's been following this in her professional life. A big investment in pre-K programs, over $132 million, but there's a lot that comes with it. Expanded time, expanded programming. So again, we're looking at trying to expand pre-K across the district, but being very strategic in where we start to open up new classrooms. House Bill 130 is the K-12 Plus program, which requires schools to provide 1,140 in instructional hours, so 1,140 instructional hours. Now, within these new requirements, it's a big jump. Elementary schools go from 990 hours up to the new minimum, and secondary schools from 1,080 to the new minimum. Now, we were very fortunate. We didn't have to make many adjustments to our secondary calendar because we were already at or exceeding the hours. We did have to add roughly 52 hours, more or less, to elementary instructional time. So the bill does define as well that up to 30 hours of embedded PD, or professional development, at the secondary level can be included to meet the new minimums of 1,140. So by using 30 hours of embedded professional development, the instructional time for students is 1,110, okay? For elementary professional development, we are able to utilize up to 60 hours of embedded professional development, and so that would actually reduce from 1,140 to 1,080. So we've done that within the calendar. This was something that we had already in place from the current school year. It was just something we were rolling over, and now we could count towards the new instructional time. The one change, do want to make note of this, the one change is that previously, parent-teacher conferences could be counted as instructional time for students. It has been taken out, and parent-teacher conferences are now on the side of professional development. So we did have to make a change. We'll bring the calendar for approval and acceptance at hopefully the next board meeting, and within that, we have one minor adjustment. Again, page 11 really talks about the weighted units and how it goes in if you exceed 181 days and what that does for the funding. So again, that's something that as we approve the calendar, we'll continue to talk about. Page 12 talks about House Bill 181, the National Board Certified Program Units. Now, previously, again, as we're generating funds, as we're working through the 910B5, we could only count our educators who are in schools as far as program units. Now we're able to count everyone who holds one of these certifications. So that does a great deal for us because we want to be able to count and maximize all opportunities for funding. House Bill 505, capital outlay projects, $35 million for security improvements, which we want to try to access so we can continue to lead the state in school security. We have $65 million for CTE and pre-K infrastructure. Do want to thank, on page 13, Deputy Superintendent Wagner, also Betsy Call, our Director of Student Nutrition. We were hosting Senate Finance and really showed them what free meals can do for a school. They were very impressed, so I want to shout them out. We were one of their expert witnesses, made sure that we testified and really got that in place and for our students. So again, free universal meals. Every student can access one breakfast meal and one lunch meal at no cost. The catch is if somebody goes back for a second is when they would have to pay. So the first meal for breakfast and the first meal for lunch is free. All right. Mr. Martinez.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, moving on to the Senate Bill 192, Additional Appropriations and Confidentiality Junior Bill for Santa Fe Public Schools, $75,000 for child care materials and educational resources, $75,000 for a child care program, $100,000 for to promote performance arts using performing art venues to extend outreach to youth groups in Santa Fe. Moving on to the 2023 Spring Budget Workshop, which is what Superintendent Chavez mentioned that we were at this past week. It was Tuesday through today. Sessions included operating budget, cash overview, additional instructional hours, K-12 plus program, CCTE grants, and outdoor education grants, state auditor updates, capital outlay, and RFR reporting, Indian education grants and bilingual multicultural education programs, safe and healthy schools, universal free meals, and attendance for success. As Superintendent Chavez mentioned prior, our budget is due to the PED on May 30th, 2023. Secretary of Education, Dr. Arsenio Romero, on April 7th released a memorandum of the unit value for FY24. The unit value for FY24 is $6,241.67, which is an increase of $719.17 from the final unit value of FY23, which is $5,522.50, or an increase of approximately 13.02%. The FY24 projected budget impacts, salaries, as we know there's increases in new minimums, which will cost the district over $6.5 million. As Superintendent Chavez mentioned, we are working on some analysis of salary schedules and the principal responsibility factors to see how much more it'll change things. The NIMSIA risk premium estimated increase of $21,795. That's great to know that the risk premium is not estimated to be a significant increase as it has been in prior years. The utilities estimated increase of $1.185 million for FY24. Utilities in total are about $3.5 million. The ERB increase of 1%, which will bring it to 18.15%. Last year was a 2% increase to ERB. This year is 2%. Next year, FY24 is a 1%. Employer benefits increase of 7.24%. That's the employer, so the district portion. Also, at the upcoming budget study session next week, staff will bring forward what was budgeted for the current school year and the actuals and the site budget workshops that we did internally. The projected budget impacts updates to the 910B5. The 910B5 is basically the backup to the SEG revenue that we receive. It has all the weights from fine arts, at risk, TCI, which is Teacher Cost Index, National Board Certified, Special Ed, but the TCI, Teacher Cost Index, Staffing Cost Multiplier, phased out T&E, which was training and experience over a 4-year period. FY23 and forward, which is this current fiscal year, the Staffing Cost Multiplier is 100% TCI. The Fine Arts Education Factor moved from 0.50 to 0.55. Superintendent Chavez mentioned that previously. Elementary PE funding methodology moves away from utilizing historical membership and is now calculated using an average of prior year second reporting, the 80th and the 120th day. School size adjustment phased out for schools geographically located in a school district with 2,000 membership or more. The at-risk factor also increased from 0.30 to 0.33. And National Board for Licensed School Employees to generate program units within the 910B5.
Mr. Martinez, can you explain how important that 910B5 is to really project our budget?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, the 910B5 is really the backup to what the revenue of the SEG is. So we are funded on the 80th and the 120th day average of the previous year. So for this year, we're funded off of the 80th and the 120th day of FY22, and for FY24, we are funded on the 80th and the 120th day of FY23. If you are expecting to see growth units within your district, you are allowed to do so. If you don't, you will receive that funding upon the 40th day. If you include growth units and you don't see them, you do have to pay that back to the PED. So that is something that the district considers and has also worked on. But as I mentioned, it talks about SPED, at risk, the TCI, which as Superintendent Chavez has mentioned, the district's TCI index is going to increase and help our funding a lot in FY24. So we're excited to see what our 910B5 will come out to. We've done some projections of the 910B5, but with the unit value as a major driver, we're expecting to see some positivity in our funding. Enrollment, so for FY23, Santa Fe Public School grew by 57 students between the 80th and the 120th day. Our current enrollment that we are funded off of right now is 11,067. Our current enrollment is 11,067. Our current funding is based on enrollment of 11,190. So we will see a decline in enrollment on our 910B5, but as mentioned, those drivers of the 910B5, the weighted measures have increased, so it'll hopefully offset the decline in membership. Santa Fe County is projected to gain about 8,000 in population by 2040. Birth rates are below state and national averages, just 7.9 in 2018 compared to New Mexico and U.S. averages, around 11 births per 1,000. So these are major impacts to our enrollment and one of the reasons we've seen decline in enrollment. Birth rate is the most significant driver of public school enrollment. School age population to grow slightly into 2040 between ages 5 to 10, impacted by cost of living. Enrollment in younger grades, especially kindergarten and first grades, plummeted in 2020 to 2021. Enrollment through higher grades was mixed, but somewhat lower overall. Moving into the federal funding ESSER update. ESSER funding will expire in September 2024. Any funding that is not used will be reverted. That's not a problem of the district, as we have a good plan with our ESSER funding. Funding has provided several things such as standard-based teaching and learning, culturally relevant professional development and fine arts, college and career technical education and internship program, revamped attendance plan, summer and after-school programming, Desert Sage Academy at 500 enrollment, capstone projects, social media and community outreach, COVID response, and physical health. Moving into federal funding for Title I funding. Title I, Part A of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESEA, provides financial assistance to local educational agencies and schools with high numbers or high percentages of children from low-income families. Not every school receives Title I funding. The district does have 21 school sites that receive Title I funding. Under special revenues, Title I funding for FY23 was $2.9 million and supported 27 FTEs. Of those FTEs, we had reading specialists, instructional coaches, and teachers and educational assistants or paraprofessionals. Overview and status of mill levy funding. House Bill 33 and Senate Bill 9 and ETN provide funding for school sites' unique needs. Current fiscal year local mill levy was $12 million and HB 33 $10.9 million. And those are funded for our annual maintenance needs, annual contract and equipment needs for music, art, athletics, facilities and grounds, technology, and our safety and security department. Our annual facility master plan priorities such as summer work, facility renewal, our annual custodial contract, which we continue to see that cost increase, annual emergency response, such as a frozen pipe, water break, on-call construction, those types of things. Annual response to the pandemic, like maintaining and updating air filtration systems. And with that, if Superintendent Chavez has nothing more to add, we can stand for any questions or discussion.
Yeah, nothing to add.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Questions from the board? Okay. I had a page marked. On page 17, on the first bullet point, about the teacher cost index and the staffing cost multiplier, can you explain that a little bit more? Because that's just not clear to me.
Sure thing, President Bose, and members of the board. So TCI, as I mentioned, T&E had been phased out over a 4-year period. There was a weighted measure for T&E as well as TCI, and there was an average of that formula. T&E was phased out, so the only weighted measure of that area in the 910B5 is the staffing cost multiplier, the teacher cost index. That's the staffing cost multiplier used to be comprised of the TCI and the T&E. Currently now it's only TCI, but it's 100%, which is what the current year driver is as well.
Okay. And let me just add, the teacher cost index takes into account license, degrees, so the more experienced teachers, higher levels of certification, the more weight is added to each teacher. So each teacher is individually inputted into the TCI index and generates funding. So if you have a new teacher, what they provide to you is really a flat rate, and then when you have more experienced teachers with different levels of certification and degrees, the weight continues to increase. So that's why that is so important to be accurate, and we don't want to be underfunded, because when you don't report accurately, you're not receiving all the funds to really drive what the cost of each teacher is.
Thank you. That was very helpful. That was my only question so far. Perhaps as we discuss more questions will come up. Yes, Vice President Anderson.
Thank you so much. Most of my questions are just sort of definition and clarification questions. On page 3, raising the responsibility factors for principals, what is a responsibility factor?
Yeah, thank you, Vice President Anderson. Responsibility factor goes into a lot, and it's based off of a level 3 teacher, the salary of a principal. So when you're looking at it, the compaction between a level 3 teacher and a principal was very close, and that was brought forward during this upcoming or this previous legislative session. So it adds to their responsibility and their income because of the duties that they perform outside of the day.
Okay.
So if they're at events, if they're at athletic functions, you know, everything, prom, everything that goes into responsibility outside of the normal school day is why they increased that factor. But it was really based off of a level 3 teacher and the compaction between a level 3 teacher and a principal. What we saw as a state is teachers were choosing to stay in the classroom because of the salary, daily rate. And if they went into administration, their daily rate really did drop, but they worked more days.
Got it. And then the at-risk index multiplier, how does that impact, like, what is that and how does that impact the budget?
Yeah, thank you, Vice President Anderson, members of the board. So it's a big driver. And actually, it's directly related to Yazzie Martinez, because when you're talking about students who fall in the at-risk and Yazzie Martinez, it's interconnected. So they're investing heavily in it, and it's partly to address Yazzie Martinez. So by increasing the factor, that risk factor, you're also increasing the funding districts can receive. We did have received a memo that part of the funding is specifically to address at-risk students and Yazzie Martinez. And so what we're doing as a district is looking at it, trying to be innovative as well. I have not come across a district that has identified a position to really focus in on at-risk students and the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit. So that's something that we're exploring to make sure that we're maximizing at-risk dollars, we're in compliance with Yazzie Martinez, and we're providing the supports necessary so those students who are within those categories can be successful, and we're making sure that what we're implementing can be implemented across the district with fidelity and ensuring that our students are being met.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Oh, this is going to seem silly, but what exactly is a fine art factor on page 6? Is that like the funding that we get specifically for the fine arts?
Vice President Bozay, Anderson.
You're fine.
As I mentioned, in the 910B5, there's several weights.
Okay.
So we're not just funded off of membership. We are funded off of membership, but those membership also carry weights into if they're involved in certain programs such as PE, bilingual, and arts. So the factor just went up, the weighted factor went up. So it drives up the funding a little bit more in the 910B5.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. On page 7, the $250,000 for outdoor classroom initiatives, I know we had used ESSER funding in the past to fund some outdoor classrooms. I didn't know, like, how much expense I mean, of course, a lot of that is sort of like a capital expense, like an initial setting up of the outdoor classroom, but how much do we expect that there's like maintenance funding or anything like that? How much ESSER funding are we going to have to replace with this funding, I guess is my question, or are we?
Vice President Anderson, if I may, capital outlay currently already assists and has assisted before ESSER funding came into play with outdoor classrooms, and also with some of the maintenance of those outdoor classrooms that already exist. So as I mentioned, when we went through the mill levy, that those are maintenance costs that are kind of continuous in what we see through mill levy and what we expect to continue to see. It's not something that would catch us off surprise or that we're not prepared for in the budget.
I guess my question might be, like, do we expect the funding for outdoor classrooms to increase what we're able to invest in outdoor classrooms or offset the ESSER? You may have just answered that, but I may not have understood.
No, I can jump in. Yeah, thank you, Vice President Anderson. It's unfortunate that it's only $250,000 because our pilot projects came out to about $150,000. And so when you're looking at $250,000, it's not going to go a long way. So it's a kind of a pilot initiative by the state to explore it, but hopefully they increase the funding because in order to keep them maintained, continue to develop them across the district, we're going to need much more investment by the state to really provide that type of learning environment because we know how important it was. Still to this day, some of our classrooms are taking place outside. And so, it's a great start. But it's not going to cover the need across the state, specifically the need that we have to grow outdoor learning across our district.
And Vice President Anderson and Superintendent Chavez, if I may, these are things that the district can keep on their radar for legislative asks for future priorities and endeavors of the district to make sure that, our outdoor classrooms continue and only get better.
That's a great idea. I love that. And then on page 9, talking about the early childhood education, K-12 plus. So is that something we can do just at certain schools? Like, I know that K-12 plus has been a little cumbersome in the past. We can do certain, like, just a few schools, or like, do we have some flexibility with that K-12 plus program, or is it going to be pretty rigid?
Specific to pre-K,
To
right?
pre-K, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that, Board Member Noble and I have been kind of throwing back and forth. There's a lot of requirements that come with this. Yes, you mentioned a little earlier, the extension of the day for not only students but staff, the investment to make sure our classrooms meet the requirements by ECECD. And so we're looking at how that's going to impact us. Dr. Aswada, who's the lead for our pre-K programs, is meeting this week and also next week to really try to find out the details, because this was a bit of a surprise to us when we heard it 2 or 3 weeks ago at a superintendent's phone call that there was funding this kind of investment to expand, but with expansion comes requirements, and so we're going to have to make sure that we meet the requirements if that's asked of us.
A question on page 12 about capital outlay projects. So I know that there had been an increase or decrease, I don't know how to characterize it, in our share of capital outlay projects and like the match that we have to do with the state, going from what, like 95 to 70 or something like that?
Yeah, currently it's 94 to 6, if I remember
Okay,
correctly.
yeah.
And now there's a reduction by 30%.
By 30%. I have taken literally one class on public outlay projects for the public schools, but I didn't know if, I know that they kind of rank them based on need, and I didn't know if we had any eligible facilities right now that would be eligible for that increase. Like if it's something that we can take advantage of, or if it's still too low for us to be able to do anything with it.
I think that's really a deputy superintendent question.
But I waited right until she stepped out.
I will say that I do know that the plan is based on a need and a plan for several years and a prior several-year plan. So, with that decrease, I know that's been a consideration of even the CRC committee and also of the board that we've done before when looking at interest from some of our bonds and possibly potentially funding some of those initiatives or those increases with that, or also looking at the mill levy budget that is available if available.
Cool, thank you. I'm just like hoping above all hopes that we can just take advantage of every little bit that they gave us. Page 16, the projected budget impacts. All of those increases, are those, I know we've had in the past, like, great increases in state funding, but then with the unfunded mandates that we've ended up in poor positions because these things haven't all been funded. I was just wondering if these are all funded by the increase in state funding.
Vice President Anderson, they are. And that is why the unit value has increased significantly to address what the impacts to the budgets across districts in New Mexico are.
And just to add, we thought we had a bill moving forward to address one of the unfunded mandates, the Students for Success Act or Attendance for Success Act. It stalled, so hopefully it's being brought back in a future session because we have leveraged, again, ESSER to hire 5 attendance coaches, which have made a 7% positive attendance impact on our district. So again, as ESSER expires, we need to continue to advocate so we can replace some of these positions that we have in ESSER.
And Vice President Anderson, you may know this, but if you don't, the unit value is district-wide through New Mexico. It's the same at every public school in New Mexico.
I love our you may not, but I love our funding formulas in New Mexico. There's much better than funding with each district with property taxes, I think. I wanted to follow up on President Bose's question on page 17 about the TCI, SCM, and the T&E. So if I'm understanding correctly, the change of phasing out T&E and changing to all TCI, the impact there is that we get better accuracy, and it increases the funding? Okay.
Vice President Anderson, if I may, it increases our funding significantly. As Superintendent mentioned, we went through the TCI audit this year, and it helped increase the operational revenue, which the board had seen in a prior bar. But also, as Superintendent mentioned, as we have staff that are have higher qualifications, it increases the weight on the TCI. So with Santa Fe Public Schools increasing their TCI, even in FY24, that's great. It's a great win for the district. It shows that there is a lot of institutional knowledge and also highly qualified staff in our schools.
Great, thank you so much. The change in funding methodology for elementary, moving away from historical membership to using the average of the 80th and 120th days. What is the difference between those two? I guess, how did they define historical membership previously? Was it like multiple years or?
Vice President Anderson, they're usually over a 5-year period, but because of the decline in birth rates and even with the membership projections that we do within the district, we also look at actuals, and that's what the PED is doing with this methodology, is funding us such as we are with the 910B5. With our initial funding, it's 80th and 120th day average, so they're kind of just mimicking with our funding there because the projections are not an accurate place of where we're at right now.
And if I can just add, you hit a good point. Our funding's always a year behind. So if you see growth in the district, then it's still based really off of what you were enrolled at the previous year. So I think that's important to note that whatever our enrollment is now, and that's one of the drivers, is for funding for next school year. Good or bad. I mean, if you have a district that's growing, then it could be a negative thing. If you have a district with declining enrollment, then, it could be a wash.
After reimagining, we're going to have great increases, so get ready for that. And then, what is my last question? On page 21, the Title I funding, whether it's a reading specialist or an instructional coach or an EA, are those decided on a site level or on a district level?
Thank you, Vice President Anderson. I'm still trying to get the names right, so if I pause a little bit, that's why. It's both. I think Deputy Superintendent Romero wants to chime in, but no, go right ahead. It's both, and it's always great to hear from our team members, so Deputy.
President Bose, members of the board, it is both. So the funding allocations go specifically to schools, but then there's district funding to pay for those reading coaches and interventionists that are at the school sites. I don't know if that answers the question.
That's super helpful, thank you. That's it. Thank you guys so much, I appreciate it.
Thank you for all those great questions. Any other board members? Yes, Board Member Noble.
So, do I understand correctly that we have had confirmation that, as you said, Superintendent, across all pay tables, we are asked to do a 6% raise?
Yes, you are correct, 6% raise.
Is that an average, or can everybody expect a 6% raise?
Good question. The governor struck the word average out of House Bill 2, so it is a flat 6%.
Thank you.
Or greater.
And Board Member Noble, if I may, on that, the way that the PED in the past has verified that those increases have been across at the district level was off of a worksheet 4 and 5, which the PED went away with this year, and they're going to verify those 6% in our STARS 40, 80th, and 120th day, and also in our budget submission.
Thank you. So I guess I'll say I have truly had bad dreams about our budget. And we have a pretty good list here of factors impacting the budget, but we don't have the forest. We only have the trees. We don't have, the closest thing I got was to Vice President Anderson's question about page 16 and the budget impacts and if these are covered by the increase in the SEG. I heard Mr. Martinez say, yes, they are. They are covered. So I hope that's right. I really do, for all of us. I don't see any math that tells me that, and I know that there's a lot to it. But I keep hoping that we can see some math about the increased costs to our increased revenue, because I have no clue how it adds up right now. And I'm really struggling with that, and how things add up in the special categories like transportation, like instructional materials. We have, not everything goes into the SEG. And, we heard an interesting public comment tonight about transportation. Love to unpack that at some point. We, at one point, had a fairly significant deficit in our meal reimbursements. I know that that should go away with the free meals, but I don't know where we are. Ultimately, that 6.5 million, that's a pretty big number for our, was that page 16, I think? Salaries increases and new minimums. So, yeah, and, I'm looking at the schedule, and we have the potential for 4 more meetings on the schedule. I personally am probably not going to be able to attend the meeting on May 18th. If that is when we adopt the final budget, that's probably problematic for me, but, and then the following week, I know we could potentially schedule things, but, the way it's just exhausting in graduation week to try and do anything. So, personally, I'm seeing I've got three more bites at this, and I really would like to see some math. My hope is, and again, there's all this stuff, and if I recall correctly, the 910B5 is a worksheet where a bunch of the weights get put in and that sort of thing. Now, I don't know that I need all of that, but some specificity, and what Vice President Anderson talked about the last time we were on this subject of, how we can see the direction and priorities of this district. I know this is hard. I really, really do. I get how much between super complex worksheets, lots of legislation impacting this, various different formulas that are probably pretty difficult to get right, and all the strangeness. But I really hope that we can start seeing the big picture, seeing the forest, seeing where we're going, seeing where we are with the district. This is a lot of impacts. It was a big session. There are often a lot of changes. But I am really hoping to feel, I guess, next week, if we can, get some orientation as to what we're looking at with increased cost, increased revenue, and what we're prioritizing, and how the pieces fit together. Because we can hear things, as Mr. Martinez talked a little bit in audit committee today about some cost shifting to mill levy. It would be good for the board to understand that. And, you know, this is my 7th time, and I'm not oriented yet. And I know we have a board member who has not done a budget before, so anyway, I'm underlining the point. One more specific question on our capital outlay and this $100,000 for performance arts and performance spaces in the community. Was that something we requested? Okay.
No, it was not, President. I knew it.
Yeah.
Board Member Noble.
So a community group?
Correct. The Lensic, to be specific.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank-
Secretary Abeta.
Thank you. This being my first budget that I'm going into, I really appreciate this presentation because this gives me some good background information before we get into the math and before we get into the details. Now I'll have a better understanding of the background for that math and those details. So I just want to say thank you to the staff for putting this together and for the level of detail. Because there's a lot that goes into this, and I'll feel much more comfortable going into next week having tonight's presentation. And Vice President Anderson, thank you for all of your questions. I had some of the same ones, and so I feel much better about next week having given this presentation this evening. So thank you to the staff for taking the time to do that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I just want to reiterate what Board Member Noble said. Our plan is to bring the math next week and have a more organic conversation. That way, you know, when we present something, you have a question on the spot, more of a conversation. So that is our plan, and we'll work hard to meet expectations.
Secretary Abeta, Board Member Noble, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. That was really the intent of today, was to address the impacts and the legislative mandates. That way, when we do kind of get more into the math and the figures, it's not more mind-boggling than what it already is. That way, everyone has an opportunity to understand it a little bit better. That way, when we do look at the math, everyone is on board of where those drivers are and why the math is the way that it is. But that was our intent.
Thank you very much. I would like to echo Secretary Abeta. It's nice to have the big picture overview, understand all the impacts, and the work is really with the math and the numbers, and we still have a very long road ahead of us. So I look forward to next week, and I know that we'll really dig in and get into it. Yes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make one comment just to piggyback off of my fellow board members.
We're going to get there.
Wait.
If you're looking at advanced planning.
I'm not.
Okay, sorry.
No. I mean, I was, but in a separate,
okay,
on
sorry.
a separate train, in a different brain. I have multiple. Just for next week, and we'll have a meeting Monday, to talk more about this too. But there absolutely cannot be too much information. Like, there's no way you could possibly give me too much information. I have multiple brains after all, so. I mean, you could tell me what Tasuki spent on those great jerseys, and I would love it. Like, there's no way to, like, overwhelm with too many numbers next week or as we move forward with the budget. Like, I want to know all of it. Like, I don't want to micromanage the budget in any possible way, but I do want to know what's going on, because we get a lot of questions from parents or from a staff member who says there's a freeze when I don't think there's a freeze. You know, it's good for us to know what's happening at a micro level, not so that we can change it necessarily, but so that we can answer questions and so that I feel understand it, and so that I feel comfortable knowing that I represent the voters of my district and what they're paying in state income taxes and what they're paying in property taxes, so that I can say, yes, your money is going to all the right places.
Vice President Anderson, that's great, because my team and I, for some of the information for next week, have really broken it out per site of salaries and expenditures per site and not as a whole. So
thank you.
You will have that information.
Cool.
Yes, all the impacts in the classroom with the teachers and the students. That's the the good information to have. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Thank you. On to our action items. I see some special guests in the audience about our action items.
Yeah, and Mr. Martinez.
Thank you for listening to our budget presentation.
They're numbers people, so they may not have minded. So, Mr. Martinez, please take us through the two resolutions and introduce our guests.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. With us tonight, we have Eric Harrigan and Art Melendres to go through the resolution determining the necessity for entering into a lease purchase agreement and notes to acquire education technology equipment, and also the resolution notice of sale of Series 2023 general obligation bonds. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Eric and Art.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Chavez. Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets. As you may recall, last month we did come before you and provided the finance plan overview of what the district is getting ready to sell, which is $20 million of $100 million of bonds that were authorized by voters. $30 million of that authorization has already been sold. After this sale, $50 million will remain. And then in addition, $11 million of education technology notes will also be sold in conjunction with the general obligation bonds. And that will actually use up the remaining authorization of the $55 million that was authorized by voters, with the plan to go back in November of this year for additional authorization for education technology notes. We plan to price the bonds on May 11th and then close in mid-June, and that's when funds will be available for the district. And I will just note that the issuance of both of these bonds will maintain the tax rate for the GO bonds and the education technology notes. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Art Melendres to go over the two legal documents that you have before you. And I'm happy to answer questions about the market if you have them.
Good evening, board members, Madam President, Superintendent. I will be pretty brief because most of you have been through this before. So with regard to the education technology transaction, this is for $11 million, as Eric explained, and it is a state statute that allows districts to enter into a lease purchase arrangement, simply meaning you can lease technology equipment over a period of 5 years, and with the revenue you bring in, pay off that lease. It's a very short 5-year program, and the statute requires that there be 2 meetings to authorize issuance of technology notes. This is the first meeting, can be at a regular meeting, which this is, and on May 11th, there is a special meeting scheduled to approve the sale of the note. So what we've done is ask you to schedule a special meeting about 15 minutes before your regular meeting, in case there are any citizens who want to discuss the transaction, but also to be able, as Eric said, to give you the interest rate and the marketing completion that will occur on that date. So with that, there would be a closing on the education technology transaction on June 15th, when there will be funds available to begin utilizing the $11 million. This, I want to point out for you and the public, this transaction will have actually an additional 2 component parts. The $11 million that will be used for education technology equipment to meet the IRS federal statute, we have to describe which of that equipment has a useful life of about 1 year or 1 year and a couple months, and we use the other technology equipment which has a useful life of more than 1 year. So under the statutory regulation, the short-lived equipment has got to be taxable, so it's the short period, and so there will be a component which is called taxable education technology note, and there will be a component which is tax exempt. And I will be working with your staff to identify the equipment and put it into those categories which we can share with you at the May 11th meeting. And with that, I'll stand for any questions that you may have. The resolution is in accordance with state law and, as I mentioned, federal law. I stand for questions.
Thank you very much, both of you. Any questions from the board? And if not, do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Oh, thank you. I guess we probably need two motions since we have two things.
And just to be clear, we just talked about the ETN, the
Yes.
GO bonds next. So the
Next.
motion is just on the ETN notes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the ETN motion, resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank
We've
you.
passed the ETN resolution. And
So
now,
the next resolution is for the sale of general obligation bonds. And just to explain this a little bit, the statutory framework allows you as a board to select a delegatee, if you will, which is the superintendent, to implement the details relating to the sale of the bonds. So with your approval tonight, we will move forward to a May 11th date, as Eric Harrigan said, for marketing, at which time the interest rate will be set and the purchaser will be set, and we will ask the superintendent on your behalf to sign a bond purchase agreement, and that will have additional detail relating to the sale of the bonds. So we refer to that as a BPA, the bond purchase agreement. That will occur on May 11th. In between today and May 11th, the underwriters that have been selected by the district will proceed to market your general obligation bonds, and also your ETNs, education technology notes, and we trust get a very good interest rate for the district. So on your GO bonds, as Eric said, this is part of the $100 million authorization that was given by the voters. The amount for this issue is $20 million, which will be sold on May 11th, and then the closing will occur on June 15th. The statutory requirements are that there be publication, that there be a preliminary official statement, to an offering document, if you will, to market the sale of the GO bonds, and bring forth a maturity schedule. We have a maturity schedule in your document at page 4. What's not there is the next column, which will be the interest rates that the underwriters will be able to share with us on May the 11th. The final thing I will say is, under the statute, in order to authorize the superintendent to sign, we are required to set out the parameters for the sale of the bonds. And there are a number of parameters, but basically we won't exceed 20 million. We won't exceed a maximum interest rate. We will be within 20 years of sale of the bonds, and we will give a report back to you all after the sale of the bonds to assure that there's a match to the parameters that you set forth in your resolution tonight. And so this is also in accordance with state and federal law. I'm a little bit the meat and potatoes guy, but if you have questions, I'll try to fill in anything that you need.
thank you very much, Mr. Melendres. Yes, Vice President Anderson?
Thank you so much. Just one quick thing. On page 4 in that table, it looks like the last cell should probably be 2035 instead of 2025. I don't know if we need to change that because it's going in order. Is that going to
There might be
impact us
a
passing
typo
it?
there.
Just a typo, it's not going to impact us doing this tonight?
It will not.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll double check that.
I do those all the time. I wasn't trying to point it out for,
No,
for brownie points or anything. I just wanted to make sure that
I'll
it
double check
wouldn't.
that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
I'll move approval of the resolution to notice sale of series of 2023 general obligation bonds.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the resolution for the sale of Series 2023 GO bonds, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, and with your permission, I'm going to leave to the superintendent a packet. It has the resolutions in there which need to be signed either tonight or at your convenience by the board president and board secretary. And Alma will work with you also to make sure that this is taken care of. But I have these for you, and they're
Thank you so much, Mr. Melendres and Mr. Harrigan. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Next, under our action items is C, the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to consider separately? And if not, can I have a motion?
Move for approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And I did, when I was looking through the documents, Member Noble, I did want to mention, I think I saw some food service budget adjustments there. So there was some money coming in from food service. All right. And now we have D, the nominations for New Mexico School Boards Association 2023 Scholarship. The purpose of the NMSBA Scholarship Program is to encourage and promote the attainment of higher educational goals for students who have demonstrated a high level of leadership, academic achievement, community involvement, and extracurricular activity participation during high school. Vice President Anderson, would you like to speak to us about our nominee?
Yes, I am so excited. It's always, I say always, this is only my second time to do it, but last year and this year, it's very difficult because we have such exceptional students in our district. But Dr. Gonzalez and I were able to come to an agreement on selecting a student to nominate, who is Dulcie Cassandra Quinn from Santa Fe High School. She is, there were no pronouns on the sheet, but I'm going to assume, okay, great, she, her pronouns, great. She will be attending the University of Arizona next year, where she's gotten into the Honors College and the School of Music. I can't list her whole, I could read this whole thing, but I do have a few things that I want to note in particular. She's receiving her bilingual seal in Chinese. She's taking numerous AP classes. She is a mentor on the golf team, participated in mock trial, plays clarinet in the marching band and in the Santa Fe Youth Symphony. And one of the coolest things, this resume is just outstanding, but I just have to read to you because I can't characterize it in my own words. But she created a fire escape app to help people with hearing impairments escape fires in buildings. She translated and presented the project in Cantonese and English. She won several Hong Kong national level science fairs and an international award. Just incredible. So I don't know if I'm going to get this motion right. Do I move nomination of her name for NMSBA? Great. So I would like to move nomination of Dulcie Cassandra Quinn to be our nominee for the NMSBA. I'm missing the 2023 scholarship.
Second.
Thank you very much. What an awesome nominee. That's so exciting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? I didn't think so. Better not. Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any comments, Mr. McGinnis? Do you know this nominee?
Yeah, she's in my AP Literature class, and she's absolutely phenomenal.
Oh.
So you guys definitely made the right choice.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And our last action item is the 2023-2024 Bilingual Multicultural Education Program application.
Thank you, Board President Bozay. With us tonight to take us through a summary of the application, the annual application for our bilingual multicultural education program is Deputy Superintendent Romero.
Thank you, President Bozay, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. We stand tonight asking for your approval of our bilingual application. You can see the schools listed that have either dual language or heritage programs at their school sites. The budget that you see is very similar to the budget of last school year. I don't have the numbers specifically from last year. We made a couple adjustments this year, specifically at Kearney. They have phased out their dual language program, so this year next year we'll have heritage and will only be serving dual language in 6th grade. And we're really excited because Ortiz Middle School has previously had heritage language, and they will create a dual language strand at Ortiz, so that's super exciting. But with those adjustments, the budget's pretty much the same as last year.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Vice President Anderson.
You've answered this question before, so I apologize that I'm asking it again. But how is it determined whether or not a school is going to be dual language or heritage?
Well, of course, it's based on the enrollment of students and needs, but also the hours. So a 3-hour program is typically half your day in English and the other half Spanish, but typically it's based on students really and their needs. So for instance, at Kearney, they are seeing a decline in their English language learners, and so they're having to phase out programming at that school site.
Thank you so much.
Just want to add also, we take into consideration if we can staff the program appropriately.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right. I will move approval of the 2023-2024 Bilingual Multicultural Education Program application.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are through our action items and on to board discussion and possible action. Member Noble, would you like to give a reimagining update?
Sure, thank you. The reimagining, I hope that everybody has had a chance to see the community update that was put out. It was a little bit delayed, but it was put out last week or the week before with some good information, and I appreciate the superintendent and team I know have been working to have updated information on the website, and a bunch of it has come forward. Dr. Garcia has started to really look at, on this brick-by-brick principle, that we will have potential policies and things to adopt come before the board piece by piece rather than in one big reveal at the end. The first of that looks like it will be next month. And Dr. Garcia has started to look at a schedule that looked fairly ambitious, but it was great to me in terms of what might come before this board when. And I think, I hope that the first piece will be about student engagement, that we look at that, and that then we will look at some other policies that might include addressing some issues and having some clarity around how we look at enrollment in certain districts and smaller schools and that sort of thing. There's also a lot of work going on with the communications committee, and we do have some great members in a communications committee that are working very hard to think about how this can really be communicated well in the community. There's been a lot of profound discussion on how difficult it is it's much easier in a way to have people pay attention and show up when there's some issue or threat, and to have when everyone and families are stretched and trying to make all of the time for all of the things with work and life, that to have engagement and really have it land with something that feels a bit sort of esoteric and not immediately impactful is tough. So a lot of appreciation to the members of the Communications Committee who have been thinking about that. And they, I think, have moved to a sort of how we communicate and a certain amount of, what we need to communicate and how we make it very relevant. And the issue of relevance comes up a lot in the steering committee, and how we can increasingly make education relevant and engaging to students in lots of different ways and really meet them where they are. So I remain optimistic about this. It remains an ambitious schedule and something that hopefully will start to gain momentum as the months tick by, because the idea is still to have really the substance of it to this board, I think, by September or October. And some of that, we'll see. But the focus groups, and I appreciate some of my fellow board members have done some great boosting of this on social media, but there are a lot of focus groups scheduled and a lot of opportunities for engagement. So hoping just that we continue to push this out and get people to engage. There are lots of ways to do it, and we will keep moving through.
Thank you very much. I'm hopeful too. I liked that schedule. It's exciting to see progress being made, and I think what we saw from the first phase of engagement was that people really struggled with that big picture, like what are your hopes and dreams and aspirations? And so maybe by breaking that down like you have into the focus groups, hopefully we can get a little bit more feedback about that, because that's such an important thing for us to all have. What are the hopes and dreams and aspirations that parents want and students want and families want for their students in the district?
If I may, the other thing that we learned is that kind of question probably will be better in a focus group than on a survey, because people, by nature of conversation, can generate and iterate and build upon each other's ideas. So, yes, that is very much the hope.
Yes, awesome. And that sort of feeds into, yes.
Can I?
Please, sorry.
Thank you so much. No. Thank you so much. I just had a couple of questions and then a couple of comments. Is the schedule for the focus groups on the reimagining page on the website? Do we know? Sorry, Cody. Mr. Donarski, I apologize.
Vice President Anderson, Board President, members of the board. The schedule is only in the news section, but I can add a link to it from the reimagining page, absolutely.
That would be helpful. We had someone reach out who has been using that reimagining page as like the landing page as for updates. So I think that would be helpful to have it there for people who are keeping an eye on.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
If it doesn't take up too much of your time.
No.
I also wonder, I was on the SFPS.info page the other day and saw at the bottom the kind of running calendar. I wonder if it could be added to that as well, just as a tie-in. As much as we can share and get it out to people, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to let my fellow board members know that I will be attending the focus groups on April 17th and 24th. If like a lot of us want to go and we need to publicly notice the meeting, then just FYI, I let Dr. Garcia and Superintendent and Board President Board Member Noble know, but I just wanted to let you guys know, as well as the focus group specifically for Indigenous families on the 18th. I also just wanted to update that I met with my my fellow folks working on Indigenous engagement with the process today with Nancy Davis of Native American Student Services, Crystal Ibarra of Equity. What is Crystal's title? Chief Equity Officer? No. Okay.
She has a long one.
Okay. And Dr. James Lujan, who is assisting Dr. Garcia, who was previously our, what was his title when he was here?
Associate Superintendent.
Associate Superintendent, great. And I will tell you that big ideas, visions for future education, and ideas just across the board are coming from our Indigenous families. We got a great report that came from a focus group as well as a survey, a combination of the two. And there's a lot of really excellent information there. And I wonder, Superintendent, if it's possible actually to share it with the board so that everyone can sort of see that information, because I think it's super helpful. You know, we have a small Indigenous population in Santa Fe Public Schools, but if it were not for some historical consequences, we would have a huge Indigenous population in Santa Fe Public Schools. So I think it's really important for us to center voices of Indigenous people because, you know, it's a historically marginalized population that has a lot to give to the district and a lot of great ideas that not only impact Indigenous students, but impact students across the board and really enhance the education of everyone. So I'm really excited about this process. I think we have a really good team working on it, and I'm looking forward to our next focus group on April 18th at 6 p.m. I think it'll be great.
President Bozay, may I add something?
Yes, please.
Something that I almost called her president again. Board Member Noble mentioned. Ruth and Cody do a great job of saturating through social media, news releases. However, I had a light bulb moment when we present. I took a small team to present, talk to the steering committee about the initiatives, what we have going. We had a one of our principals tell us, I didn't know how robust work-based learning was. And if I would have known, I would have told my son, I want you participating. So again, I think there's that whole as far as branding, marketing, communication, and I think that communication committee is doing great jobs of bringing things forward. But just listening to steering committee members really shows that we need to do a better job of really showcasing Santa Fe Public Schools.
On that point, thank you, Superintendent, for bringing that up, because that really was a light bulb moment that honestly we have within the Santa Fe Public Schools team, of course, the community, and that truly one of our core communications exercises, because I think it wasn't even just work-based learning. There were people in the room who learned a lot from the presentations at that meeting, and to some extent, if we can think about ways to educate the team, the community, the family that is the Santa Fe Public Schools, we will go a long way to outreach into the entire community of these incredibly strong programs that are running in this district.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments on reimagining? Before I start, is there anybody else that would like to bring anything up for board discussion and possible action? Okay, so that sort of brought up for me something that I'd been thinking about since the NSBA. There were several districts that talked about youth advisory groups and youth advisory committees, and I know that I'm pretty sure I speak for all of us when we say we learn a lot from our student board members, and so it's kind of been bubbling in my brain all year. We need more of this. I think we all feel like we need more student voice, and so I would love it if another board member worked with me to try to start envisioning this and getting it into place. if there's interest, if we think that's a good direction to move in.
I think Secretary Abeyta has the most experience in this, but if you're overloaded, I'd be happy to do it. So it's up to you.
I was actually going to volunteer to work with you on it because of the experience, and I do have a lot on my plate, but when it comes to young people, I always make more room, so I'd love to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Let's see, a little too close. I do have a lot of interest in this, and I would really like to help. And I've heard from students at my schools that they want some things to change. So I'm really interested to get their input.
Awesome. Awesome.
Let's see. Oh, also, I visited the let's see, teen center at the mall recently, and talked to one of the guys there and asked him a few questions about what they've got going on there. And I think it would be interesting to reach out to them potentially. I hear they have experience with that sort of thing. So.
For sure.
All right.
Thank you very much. Awesome. I look forward to it. I'm excited. Anything else for board discussion and possible action? Okay. We are on to advanced planning. We do have CRC next Wednesday. We do have a study session next Thursday to dig into our budget numbers. Is a 5 o'clock start time agreeable to the board? Okay.
I'll accidentally be here.
30 minutes before or after, hopefully before. The following week, we do have a 427 meeting to discuss more budget, and I know that Vice President Anderson is not available that night. I'm wondering if the board is flexible to moving to another evening that week. We were thinking about the 25th, the Tuesday night. But of course, we want as many board members to be available as possible.
I also cannot do the 25th. There's a homelessness forum that I have to attend.
There was something on the 26th or nothing on the 26th?
There's a tentative CRC meeting, but that probably won't happen.
Yeah, it's not on here. We're meeting on the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay. How's the 26th? Okay, thumbs up. Okay, 427 meeting will be on the 26th instead. And the district will let us know if we need to have an executive session that day. And then, moving on, just because it came up tonight, on the May 11th meeting at 5:15, we will have that special board meeting to go over the final pieces of that. Yes.
On the audit committee on 5/11, Superintendent, was it your understanding that we moved forward with a little bit of an and both approach today? We had the discussion that was noticed on the agenda and that we had discussed at our study session about the audit committee roles today, and it was a very good discussion. I think that the plan, as I understood it, was to put it on the agenda for the 11th in case other board members wanted to attend that discussion about the audit committee roles.
Okay.
Again, I do think that, honestly, every member of the audit committee had a sort of gold nugget to contribute in their comments about the roles and the questions as to what they might need, what's unclear, how they are thinking about it. So it was a great discussion, and we'll do it again.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And just to add, the next CRC, per the discussion at the joint study session, was to allow the chair to start the discussion with the CRC. So it would be the second CRC meeting, which would be in May
The 17th.
for the board members, just like we talked about
Okay.
audit. So just to make sure that we have a clear plan moving forward.
Wonderful. That's very helpful. Member Noble, what was the meeting that you weren't able to attend?
May 18th.
Okay, perfect. So if we need to make adjustments as that gets closer, because budget is important, everyone should be involved, we will definitely do that. Anything else on advanced planning, other than graduation coming up? We're excited.
Again, when we're talking about graduation, the last 2, maybe 3 years, Desert Sage, Eco, and Mandela had been outdoors at Desert Sage. Just to make note, and it's on advanced planning, though, it has been moved back indoors to the Santa Fe Convention Center.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. I think we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of the week.